Welcome to the England Rugby Pod. Thanks for downloading episode 2. Today we take a look at our picks for the Lions tour in anticipation of Warren Gatland's official squad announcement on the 19th of April. You're listening to the England Rugby Pod, the rugby podcast that believes England will win the World Cup in 2019. Right, welcome to episode 2, and welcome Dan.
Hello mate, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I'm excited about Lions.
It's been quite an interesting sort of little exercise, really. It wasn't actually as easy as I thought. There were some positions where I really struggled with a few, but overall, I'm pretty happy with my selection.
Good. Cool. So let's get straight into it. On the 19th of April, so that's in about 3 weeks, I think, Warren Gatland is going to announce his 2017 Lions squad. So we're going to make our predictions today based on his 2013 formula, which was 6 props, 3 hookers, 5 second row, 7 back row, 3 scrum halves, 2 fly halves, 4 centres, 4 wings, and 3 fullbacks for a 37-man touring squad. Obviously, he might change things this time around, but it gives us a bit of a platform to get started. So we can then come back in a couple of weeks' time, or 3 weeks' time, and see how we got on and how close we were to his actual selections.
I'm quite intrigued to see how close we'll be, actually. I don't think we'll be a million miles off, but as with any Lions tour, there's going to be a few wild cards in there that we just haven't seen before. So
absolutely.
I'll be surprised if Warren's not calling us up asking for advice, to be honest, based upon my list.
Fair enough. Well, without further ado, let's start at the front and with the props. So I'm going in the tight head position. I'm going with Dan Cole, Kyle Sinclair, and Tad Furlong. And then for the loose heads, I'm going Jack McGrath, Cian Healy, and Mako Vunipola.
I'm the same as you, all but one. Whereas instead of Cian Healy, I've actually gone Joe Marler. My thinking behind that is purely about international game time. Cian Healy is benching at the moment more often than not for Ireland, I think, whereas Joe Marler seems to be a fairly solid set of hands. If I'm completely honest, I don't think either of them are test match starters anyway. The one that's actually the most interesting to me, which we both have, which I quite like, is good old Kyle. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his surname because I know I get it wrong every time.
Like Kyle Sinclair.
I think that's his cousin.
Okay, Kyle Sinclair.
Yeah, that one. He's I'd like to see him go. I think he should. I think he'd add something to the tour, but I mean, clearly we've both thought the same. So
yeah, I think he will.
Yeah, let's wait and see. So okay, well, let's look at hookers then. So for me, I've gone Rory Best, Ken Owens, and Dylan Hartley.
Okay, well, I mean, like the last round with the props, I'm similar to you, slightly different. I'm actually going Rory Best and Dylan Hartley, but I'm also going Jamie George. So a little bit like Kyle Sinclair, perhaps a bit more of an outside bet. But I just think he's probably the better hooker out of him and Dylan Hartley. But Dylan Hartley obviously is so instrumental as the England captain that at the moment it's difficult for Jamie George to get ahead of him, which is fine because there's experience to be gained from that. But I think Warren will see him as a useful finisher, and I think that's exactly what he is right now. He's great for bringing on, whether it's the last 20 or the last 40, or in some cases longer than that. I think he'll be an interesting addition to the squad. So I've gone for Jamie George.
I actually like the look of that because I think Jamie George is probably more impactful as a finisher than any of the others. My reason for Ken Owens ahead of him was purely because to me he was the outstanding hooker in the Six Nations. But hey, we'll see how it works out.
Cool. So second row is an interesting one. I've gone really England heavy here. I've got Joe Launchbury, Courtney Laws, Maro Itoje and George Cruz. And then my fifth is Alan Wynne-Jones. which is an interesting one actually, because I've just read today that Alan Wynne-Jones is actually injured at the moment, so he's potentially in doubt for going on the tour. In which case, I would have Johnny Gray as his replacement.
Okay, so that's so I've gone Launchbury, Alan Wynne. I didn't know about the injury, I must admit. Maratoje. I've gone Johnny Gray initially and Courtney Laws. I've left out George Cruz because, and I don't know the current situation, but last I read, he was out for 3 months, and that was February. So to me, that takes him out to the end of April, and I just didn't think it would be enough time. Otherwise, I would take him. I think he's earned it. So
yeah, it'll be an interesting one, because obviously George Cruz is so important in the line-out, and obviously winning the line-outs is going to be so key against the All Blacks. But I know exactly what you mean, and it was a toss-up for me as well. But yeah, I just think that if he's fit, just his consistency in the past pre-Six Nations, I think that might just be enough to get him the nod. But we shall see.
Normally, I'd 100% agree. My only thing, because we've got so many strong second row, that's why I think they probably won't risk it, because it's like, actually, if we don't take him, yes, he'll be a loss, but we are still replacing with a good other second row. But like you say, hey, it'll be. This is one of the most interesting picks, I think, actually.
Okay, so back row, no surprises. Billy Vunipola gets the call up, along with CJ Stander and Sam Warburton as what I think will be the Test starting back row. And then joining them, I've got James Haskell, Talupe Faletau, Sean O'Brien and Ross Moriarty.
Okay, that's quite interesting. So your Test starting three, who you went with, Billy, CJ Stander and Warburton, I agree with. Where I've gone Haskell as well. I think I think he's earned it as a player, but I think as a tourist he'll add massive value as well. And then I've gone Omani, Tipperick and Faletau. I must admit, I would have actually gone Heaslip ahead of Faletau, but I think Heaslip is injured and will be out. So I've taken Heaslip out of it. So Omani to me is just an absolute warrior. Tipperick offers just huge versatility and sort of just, he could be all over the park. I think will be really useful for the Lions. And Faletau, I think we probably need another sort of definite number 8. Again, it's really strong, but yeah, it's a shame. Moriarty, I thought had a solid. I think he had a very good Six Nations. Actually, I think it was really good. For me, it's 3 to 6 months too soon for him.
Okay, so on to the backs and scrum half. I'm going Conor Murray and Rhys Webb. Probably no surprises there. And then my third scrum half is Danny Kerr, who I just think offers a little bit more as a finisher. Because I think he's my third choice scrum half.
So I've got exactly the same actually, and for exactly the same reason. I think Conor Murray's probably the Test starter at the moment. Webb's probably second, and then like you say, but whoever comes third has to, if you're looking at them as a potential Test person, has to have the impact. For me at the moment, Kerr's got slightly more impact than Young as a finisher.
Yeah, I agree with you completely, and I think that's probably how Warren Gatland will look at it too. Okay, so fly half, Johnny Sexton, George Ford.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've read some stuff about sort of Dan Bigger and thing. For me, they're the two best fly halves. I mean, it's a no-brainer for me, but clearly that's not sort of the sort of opinion held by everyone. But I've done exactly the same. I've gone Sexton Ford. I think Sexton, assuming injury-free, is a shoo-in. And I think Ford offers something that no one else does. So I'm exactly the same, mate.
Well, I mean, I agree that he's there on form. But also I just think that if you're going to have Owen Farrell in the centres at 12, which I have him at 12, I just think having George Ford as the backup for Johnny Sexton makes more sense than Dan Bigger. because George, there's something about the Farrell-Ford combination that just works. So I just think he's a more valuable partner to Owen Farrell. But I do think he's there on form as well. I think he's better than Dan Biggar anyway. Plus, although his kicking's not as strong, I think we don't need the extra kicker. I think there's extra kickers in the form of Elliot Daly. Stuart Hogg offers an extra boot as well. So there are options without needing Dan Biggar.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Okay, so centres, I think, like realistically, you'd have to be a fool not to have Owen Farrell there. He has to be a test starter at 12. He's, to me, currently the best 12 in the world, actually. So I've gone Owen Farrell, Jonathan Joseph, Ben Teo, and Davies.
Interesting. Ben Teo gets the shout.
Yeah, that was something that I sort of juggled with a bit. The reason I've given him the shout ahead of, actually I was looking at Henshaw.
So I've gone.
Oh, so you've gone Henshaw ahead of Teo, which I completely get. The reason I've given Teo the shout is because some of my other players further down can cover centre as well. So I think it mitigates the risk a little bit.
Fair enough. Okay, well, wing, England heavy again for me. Watson, Daly and Null all getting the shout, with George North joining them. George North for me is an interesting one. I'm taking him. He's on the plane, but I don't think he's in the top 4 wingers in the Lions Nations at the moment by any stretch. I don't think he was very good in the Six Nations, despite the last couple of games he scored a couple of tries. But really the quality that resulted in those tries came from inside him, not from him himself. I don't think he's in form. However, when he is in form, there's something a bit special about him, and you need that option, I think, especially against the All Blacks.
So yeah, I mean, North to me, I'm inclined to agree. I think he had a quiet period, but I think against Ireland he was really good. I think he's probably the most destructive runner of those wings. So sorry, just to clarify, I've gone for exactly the same wings as you: Watson, North, Noel, and Daly. North, I'd be amazed if North doesn't go. I think he's almost definitely on the plane, and I think he's probably a likely test starter. Jack Knowles, an interesting one, because there's obviously Seymour, who's played really well. But again, I'm looking at that from a finisher perspective, from an impact perspective. And I think Knowles just so underrated. I really, really rate him. And I think his impact off the bench would be stronger than Seymour's. Daly gets the nod for me. Mainly, yes, he had a great Six Nations. As a winger, I rate Seymour higher than Daly. But I think Daly offers that versatility to cover centres and fullback as well.
Yeah, no, I certainly don't disagree. We've both gone for the same 4 there. And I think, with the Lions, with rugby the way it is today, I think you can kind of look at a back 7. But obviously we've said we're going to go with the 2013 format. So we've got our 4 wingers. Fullback, Stuart Hogg, who I think is probably nailed on for test start fullback. And for me, it's along with Rob Kearney and Liam Williams. Or Rob Carney, rather, and Liam Williams.
I read yesterday, I believe it was, that Carney's probably out from injury. I'm not sure he's out, but I think his injury takes him right to the start of the Lions. So my personal view is they won't risk him. So I've gone Hogg, who for me is probably the test starter, Liam Williams as well, because, yeah, great fullback, but also the versatility. And I've actually gone Halfpenny as well. I know, mate. I struggled with this because, if I'm honest, I don't think he's earned a place on the Lions tour. But I think he just, like with his kicking, I think he just edges Brown. And I've only put him ahead of Carney because I don't think Carney can go due to injury. Otherwise, I would 100% have gone Carney.
Fair enough. Okay. All right. Well, so I've gone. Yeah. So I've gone 18 Englishmen, 10 Irish, 8 Welsh, and a Scot. And that's assuming that Warren uses the same format as 2013.
Yeah, sure. So I guess I'm 17 Englishmen, 10 Welsh, 7 Irish, and 2 Scots.
It's almost exactly the same, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not dissimilar, but actually, I think that's. I don't think that's unfair. Like it has to be England heavy. They're the form team. They're the best team in the Northern Hemisphere at the moment. So it has to be England heavy. The Welsh and Irish, yes, Welsh finished fifth, but actually, the Welsh and Irish, I think, much on a par. And the Scots have got some good players and massively improved, but I don't quite think they're there to start dominating Lions places just yet. Maybe next tour.
Right. So I think the final thing I wanted to talk about was the captaincy, because obviously there's been a lot of media chat about who that might go to. I think the 5 names, and I don't know if you agree, but I think the 5 names that have been touted are Rory Best, Dylan Hartley, Alan Wynne-Jones, Sam Warburton, and Owen Farrell. So I just wanted to have a quick look at them and actually start at the bottom. For me, Owen Farrell is not the captain. I think he has enough responsibility as it is, controlling the game from 10 or 12 or wherever it is that you're playing him. And I just don't see the value in giving him the added burden of the captaincy at this stage in his career. So I wouldn't make him captain for the same reason I wouldn't make him England captain.
He's going to be such a key part to the tour and the test and how we play. I don't think there's any value in having him as captain. So I back you with that, completely.
Cool. So Sam Warburton next. So lots of chat about him. Obviously, he's been pretty awesome in the Six Nations for Wales. We know he's got the experience from the many years that he captained Wales. But I just think he's looked so much better since losing the captain's armband for Wales that I'm not sure I'd want to risk giving him back the armband and putting him under that pressure and risk not getting out of him what he's been giving Wales over the course of the last few months.
So this is what worries me. I actually think Warburton will be captain, but I don't want him to be for exactly the reasons you just said. I'm worried that they're going to name Warburton captain now, which he will do a great job, and he's been a good captain. But exactly that, when he did it like this Six Nations without, just take the shackles off, and he's just started like really playing just some rugby, just like, no pressure and just really playing. And that's kind of what we need in New Zealand. So I hope I'm wrong. But I've got a sneaky feeling that Warburton might actually be the Lions captain, but he wouldn't be my captain.
No, fair enough. Obviously, a lot's been made of Alan Wynne-Jones. I'm not sure he's done a good enough job for Wales. Well, there's two.
You're not a fan, are you?
I don't. I'm not. It's not that I'm not a fan of him. I don't think he's done a good enough job for Wales as captain. I think there's been too much. There's been too much confusion at times on the pitch, and you just can't have that from a captain, especially on a Lions tour, where the guys don't know each other as well, and you need a leader to really lead. But I also don't put him in the top 4 second rows. So I don't
put him in top 4 or top 2.
I don't put him in top 4.
Oh wow, okay.
I have Launchbury, Laws, Itoje, and Cruz all ahead of him, and therefore I'm just not sure that there's I take him on the tour. This is all obviously assuming that he's not injured. But I take him on the tour, but I'm not sure he makes the test team, and therefore I don't think you can give him the captain's armband either.
So yeah, I agree. I've probably got him in my top 4, but I don't think, and for that reason, I wouldn't have him as captain. Actually, for what you said, it hasn't. I'm willing to sort of look over some of the decisions with the Welsh, because I think there's one incident in particular that we're thinking of, and fine, like let's let that go. But I don't necessarily have him as my test starter either. So for that reason, for me, he wouldn't be my captain.
Okay, well that leaves us with Rory Best and Dylan Hartley, 2 of the hookers. Obviously, I would love Dylan Hartley to get the captain's armband. This is the England rugby pod, and we love England. But I'm afraid on this occasion I can't give it to him, and the reason is this: I I think if Dylan Hartley is captain, I think whoever your captain is, they have to start.
Yeah.
That's not a problem. He can start and have 30 minutes if necessary. But this is the issue I then have is that I don't see Rory Best as a finisher. So for me, Jamie George is on that bench. It's almost like he's inked in on the bench to be the finisher for the other hooker. And so if you're choosing between Rory Best and Dylan Hartley for your starting hooker, I think I have to go Rory Best. And for that reason, he's my captain.
So this is quite annoying because he's my captain as well, actually. So that's a shame. Yeah, Dylan Hartley, same. I'm not sure he's even match day squad, which is a shame. He's been a great captain for England, but I think Rory Best and I've got Ken Owens, but I think they've put themselves ahead of Dylan Hartley at the moment, which to me has to rule him out. I agree with you. I know there's been talk about how the captain doesn't necessarily have to be a test starter. I think he probably does. I think Rory Best is... Ken Owens has had a great Six Nations, but I think Rory Best probably is the starting hooker. And he's the solid choice for me. I'd have Rory Best as hooker. He's well respected. He's a great player. I mean, it's hard to say. I don't have much to say on that. The captain to me is not a huge one. I would understand like a few of the choices they go with. There's a few I'd probably disagree with, but yeah, I'm with you, mate. I'm Rory Best as my captain.
Great. Okay, so we've picked our teams. We've picked our captain. We've picked a lot of Englishmen. So all that's left to do now is wait until the 19th of April, see what Warren Gatland does, and then come back and compare the results.
Are we putting a stake on this? Whoever gets closest buys the other a stake.
A stake? Yeah, I like it. Yeah, done.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Consider it done.
Lovely.
I'll have my medium rare.
I actually think that might be. I actually think that might be a fair assumption.
Well, on that note, guys, thanks so much for listening, and hopefully we will see you again. Well, hopefully we'll see you again next week, but certainly in a couple of weeks' time when we come back to compare these predictions with the official squad selections. Take care.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. Speak soon.